Well, hey everyone, my name's Justin Long. We'll give everybody a second to start hopping in, but I am the marketing director here at PowerChurch and Empower. Um, and I'm joined here today by Jeff Campbell. He'll be doing all of the important presentations and demos and showing us how we can um, use the attendance numbers that we get from Easter and just really every week to help make decisions and see how we can serve people better. Um, yeah, I just want to thank you for joining us. I know we're right at the edge of Holy Week and Easter coming up, so we know there's 10,000 other things that you could probably be doing right now. But thank you for taking the time to learn how our software might be able to serve your ministry a little bit better. Um, but yeah, so again, I guess with Easter coming up, I know we don't want to jump into the demo and get into the business. I know that's where I do, but I just want to take a second to um, just uh, a reminder to enjoy the season in the middle of the mess that can come with it and the busyness. To just take a second throughout your week to just find a quiet time and space to realize that we get to do this and we get to serve people every week, and people are going to come hear the gospel and be changed this week. And that makes all of this work worth it. Okay, enough preaching. Sorry, Jeff. You can take us into this.
Hi, my name is Jeff Campbell. I'm the general manager here at PowerChurch Software. What that practically means is I oversee and work with the development teams, both for PowerChurch and Empower. We'll jump back and forth between the two. So the main themes to talk about today is, following up with guests when Easter, or really any time. We'll look at really what works for Easter works for the rest of the year as well. So recording those things and also taking a look at attendance and what we can do with attendance information. We're going to look at entering it in. We're going to look at then how we can view it, how we can look at attendance trends by activity. And we'll look at following up with people who have missed attending, consecutive times, and we'll look at what kind of reporting that we're going to get out of it. So I guess one of the first things was talking about why do we record attendance at all? Right. So one of those things there is why record attendance is we want to look at broad trends of numbers, right? We're not looking at numbers for numbers' sake, but we're looking for, especially for planning this type of year, like so that we know, especially coming to a big event like Easter, like looking at our staffing levels of our kids ministry and those that make sure that we're able to um, have the appropriate staff and volunteers that we need for these big attendance days. So the only way to get that is if we know what the numbers were for the prior years. So that's kind of the numbers. We're going to look at both recording what we call detail attendance. Detail attendance is who attended, who exactly attended, the Smiths, the Browns, whoever, who attended. And we're also going to look at recording just totals attendance. So don't feel like you've got to go to the level of doing detail attendance if not every activity is going to need the exact of who attended, who didn't attend at kind of level, but if you can record just the total attendance, even gives us kind of those broad levels of numbers so that we can know how many people to exist. Looking overall trends, are we trending up, are we trending down? Maybe coming back and looking at environmental factors like oh, why was the middle of February did we have a really low attendance Sunday? You can go back and cross-reference weather and go, okay, yeah, we still had church, but there was an ice storm in the area and a lot of people chose to stay home. So we're going to jump in straight into, I'm going to jump straight into demos and look at things. So first up, I'm in PowerChurch here, and we're going to look at how do we actually just record attendance. So thank you, Justin, for bringing that in. So I'm going to record attendance from activity 100, and I'm going to record this for this last Sunday and say, okay, I've already pre-entered some data in here. So it says, hey, we're going to edit this data. So this is what it looks like in PowerChurch. We have a activity here. It's got people in it. We can toggle attendance statuses just by hitting the space bar on the keyboard. We can also just double click down here to record. So the idea here is people who are present, we want a P in their name next to their name. If have an A, we want an A next to their name here. If somebody comes in that's the first time attending here, this is our worship service, but this could be a Sunday school class or anything. You can click add person. This will let you add somebody who's already in your database into this activity. Or if this is a new family, you're entering them off a Connect card or something like that, you can say add new family. And this is the same process of where you're entering in names right in the family mailing list or the integrated data entry. You can add them straight in the database right from this attendance screen and don't have to jump out and come back in. Want to pull right here to this option down here that says permanently add the selected person of this activity. If they should become a member of this activity, like the worship service, make sure that's selected and that'll automatically add them in there. Now, once we're done recording all of our attendance in, we can click the done, or if we've got another group to enter attendance for, we can click here and say enter more attendance. I'm gonna save my changes, and I'm actually gonna come back. I've got another activity that's I'm just recording totals only for. I'm gonna say okay, and we'll look at how this is set up. So in this case here, I'm just entering in, I don't have any people in this activity. I'm just gonna record the total number of people that are present. And I'm just going to type a number in here that say, hey, there are 56 people present, and I'm not recording any individual I'm not recording any individual attendance there. Let's just take a quick look at how that is set up. So this is that activity 90, totals only. If you notice here, I don't have any members there. But if I pull up the graph, I can see the graph of the attendance here, and I can see the list as well. All right, I'm going to switch over now to Empower. And for those not familiar with Empower, Empower is our web-based version. It is a separate product than PowerChurch. It's got different feature sets, but there's a lot of overlap in here. And let's take a look at how we record this. So membership, I'm going to go to attendance here, and I'm record detail attendance for my worship service. I've got the same basic data set in both Empower and PowerChurch. And I'm going to say record attendance. And here PowerChurch pulls up by default. It brings in, it says groups everybody by a household. So I can look at a household together and their attendance, or I can uncheck that and it'll really just give me a list of names and I can check to see who is there or not. One thing here, like we can do in Empower is, say your counters come in and say there's 150 people total that were here. So I can lock the total present to 150. So if I'm recording detail attendance, I can just go in and check. And as I uncheck people, which is making them absent, it's automatically adjusting the additional present for me. So I can see, from here, I've got 118 people that I've marked detail attended, plus 32 additional presents, give me my total of 150. So it just depends which way if I know there was additional 32, I can lock that. Or if I know they're 150 total, I can save it like that. One thing, so that's recording the detail attendance. What if we've got an activity that we're recording just the totals? So I can switch over to totals attendance, and I can say record attendance here. Empower has a concept of services that you can put in here. So I can see, so I've got my activity 95, which I've just named total multi-service. And I can just enter in the totals here. So I'm going to say there was 67 in the first service, and I should not have chose 67. I have teenagers. 45 in the other service, and I can save that, and that enters that attendance. So let's go take a look at the activities themselves now. And so this is my multi-service where I just entered in the totals, and I can see a graph here of how many were in my 9 o'clock service versus my 10:30 service. That was here. And if I want to see the details of that, I can jump over here, and now I can see each individual day, and I can see by service of how many were in each. You can take this graph, and if you need to export it, you can click the 3 buttons here, and you can export if you want to save that as an image to maybe send out to, talking about planning for next year. So let's come down to the worship service. This is the one where we're recording the detail attendance. There's a few things that are here. I'm going to if you click the titles over here, it will take off that option off the graph. So I'd recorded a lot more attendance than what our history has been doing, but I can see my history from here. So I can kind of go back to the last year and see, kind of where our attendance was averaging to help plan for this next year. Same thing, I can export the data as an image, or if I want the raw data, I can export the data as a CSV file that you can bring into Excel or any other places that are here. Talking about just broad overall attendance things. So Empower has on its dashboard, one of the information you can include on its dashboard that comes up when you come in is these titles here that are showing individual monthly attendees. So this is the number of unique people that have some record of attendance. That could be on a Sunday morning, it could be in a nursery, it could be in a connect group, it could be in a home group, it could be on a attendance that you're tracking for Wednesday night youth activity. This is the total number of people that have been marked present somewhere for some activity for that month. So you can then see month to month trends. If you want to take off the year, you can click up there, click on the legend, we'll take the title off. This is doing the same thing, but is breaking it down more granularly by week. So this is the total number of people we've seen for a month. This is the total number of people that we've seen for each week. Each Sunday starts a new week. So between that Sunday and the following Saturday, is anybody who attended something during that period of time will include them, will trigger them to be included on the counts there. So there again, this is giving you the total idea of how many people that have come across and attended some type of thing for us, either in the month or in the week. I do want to show how Empower sets up the activities for the multi-service. So my total's only here. If I go over here to setup, you will see I've set this to say we're recording attendance, but we're recording just totals only versus recording detail attendance. And the other way that then, that just tells us whether we're recording individual attendance or if we're recording totals only. And then for the multi-service, what we've done is we have set up multiple. Oh, I'm clicked on the wrong. Here's the multi-service one. That's why I confused myself. We've set up events that happen. So this lets us know that on this Sunday, we're going to track attendance for a 9 o'clock service and a 10:30 service, both. So you do need to set up an activity, or not an activity, but an event, kind of to let it know what it wants to record, what it wants to record attendance for. So that's our broad overview of attendance. So what about individual people? So let me switch back to PowerChurch here and let's take a look at that. So if you're looking at individual people, so I'm gone to the family mailing list, there's an attendance summary tab here that then on the attendance summary tab gives us kind of an idea by person of, if we're recording attendance, what their attendance pattern looks like. You might see if you got snowbirds or that they're gone during the winter months, or if you're in Florida, they're there during the winter months. So you might be able to see their attendance patterns. If you're looking at an individual of like the new visitors, this would be a good place to come in if you are recording detailed attendance to see how they've attended. This should actually back up. If you do have check-in, the check-in feeds the attendance area as well. So as you check kids into their ministries, to their areas or classes, they will automatically record their attendance for them. That's often the easiest way to get attendance information in. But usually most people only do check-in for children's programming. That is here. So we can see this for each person. If you really want to drill down into it, you can click the down arrow and that'll actually show you what event or what event they attended or what activity they attended here. And I'm going to switch back to Empower. Empower has the same features in it. So I'm going to go over here back to households. I can see my attendance pattern by household. That's here. One thing that Empower can do is if I come in and I want to just look at all my visitor households, for instance. These are all my households that I've tagged as visitors. I can now quickly come in, and there again, recording detailed attendance is a lot of work. So, hopefully this comes in through a check-in process or through a connect group area. That's where you're recording those in. But this kind of gives you an idea, like, hey, doesn't feel like we've seen the Smiths in a while. that's there. Another thing, an automated way of doing things is, let me switch back to PowerChurch. There's a report in PowerChurch called the Consecutives Absentee Report. So we go to Reports, and the report here in attendance called Consecutive Absentees. I'm going to run this for year to date. This report's going to show us, hey, show us people who've missed 3 times consecutively. So that's giving us follow-up to go like, hey, the Smiths have missed the last 3 Sundays. Maybe they've just been out of time or out of town. Maybe they've had just life events that are happening that's kept them away from church. But that gives us ways to know, and based on things more than a feeling, and having to, more than a feeling like, hey, it feels like it's been a while since we've seen the Smiths. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. You can limit this down to particular activities. If you like, in here, and we pull this in. So now I can see we're recording detail worship attendance. I can see that the Changs have missed 4 Sundays in a row, and I've got this ordered by the number of times they've missed. So, and this report also does show us the last time they attended in this activity as well. So and it's just giving us more information to follow up with to follow up with people. I'm going to take this here. So like, here's our nursery, right? We've got a couple of families that have missed 12 weeks. Maybe we need to promote them. Maybe they promote out of the nursery. We just need to update our records. Maybe we need to follow up with the family itself. Empower has a similar report that runs. That's the pretty much a copy of the PowerChurch report, but it's got a similar report that it runs as well. Double check my notes, make sure I'm covering everything. You can also use, now this is more than attendance, we're also going to talk about following up with new visitors here. This is especially after Easter, but you want to be doing this all the time. So you can send an email out, both from PowerChurch and Empower. So let's just see how to do that. Under family mailing list, we're going to say group email families. Now what this is going to do, since we're running the group email out of family, it's going to find directory sequences 1 and 2. Those are reserved for the spouses or the parents of the household, and it's going to send, with an email address is entered to them, it'll pull their email addresses and send the email message to them. So I'm going to pull in, for my date, I'm just going to pull in everybody who's registered year to date. You might want to bring this down to more specifically, like following up from the prior year, or prior Sunday, so you'd put in exact dates. But for my data, I'm just going to say this year as who I'm going to pull in. I could change the mailing category to select just my visitors, make sure I get who I'm expecting to get. I'm going to say OK. And if I'm going to change this email to HTML email, and I can load a template that I already have. This is why I have a template, so you don't have to see me type. This put in my subject line here. If you usually you'll skip this step, the reply to email, if you know the reply to go someplace else, what account this is being sent from. And if I say finish, finish is kind of misleading. It doesn't actually start sending. It doesn't start sending until you actually click start sending. But if I want to see who this is going to, I've got one household here that was registered in this year. So this is the email address. These are the email addresses that will go out to them. So if I say start sending, it'll actually try to start sending. So I don't want to do that. Empower has a similar process. I'm going to come over here to Empower, and I'm going to first clear my advanced search, and then I'm going to got a save search here. It's called recent guests, which is the same Emma Heller family. And I can just come up here and say mass email. And that brings up my search that I have. And it shows you the list of email addresses that you're going to send. If you don't want it to go to somebody, in that list, you can just uncheck them. And I'm going to say, this is going to say when I want this to go. I'm going to kick this out to next week because we don't want this to go right now. And I've got a template here saved as well that we'll bring in the text that we want to send, and we can say next. It gives us a preview of what it is. And if I click send here, it'll actually queue that up to send on the date and time that we're got it scheduled to go out. Let me just double check, make sure I've got this. So you can do a similar process if you want to send text messages. You can actually send text messages on PowerChurch as well. I don't have text messaging enabled here on this, but in Empower, I would say send a mass text message inside of PowerChurch. We would have this. I don't know if you can do that in PowerChurch and send a mass text message to a household. I should know that. So under person, if you did it from the people, you would say send text message to a group. So it doesn't look like you can send a text message from the household, but text messages are usually more on the person level anyway. So you would send the message to that group out through personal profiles, send message to a group. And the part of just following up with people, one of the things I want to kind of just show that's possible to do, in Empower has a feature, we call it automatic emails. And what I've set up here is an automatic email that goes out every Wednesday. I've created a group called, under my activities, I've called this group my guest follow-up group, and I've put people in this. So I've got one person in here, Jonathan is in this group. I want them, whoever's in this group, to get an email every week of who our recent guests are. So that's set up under messaging, underneath automatic emails. So I specified that here. Anybody they get this email if their email's in the guest follow-up group. But then I'm now going to build the email itself. I'm not going to walk through exactly building. I'm just going to kind of show you what it looks like. It's got instructions at the top to say, hey, thank you for greeting and carrying our guests. Treat this information as confidential. And then it is automatically building this block here of, who are our guests, what date they were registered, and giving basic contact information. There again, you're not going to send this out to the whole church. This is to a guest contact group that is reaching out to people. And this is automatically scheduled every Wednesday at 2:00, and you can change the time of when you would like this to go out. You can set when you want this to go out, what day of the week, and when you want it to go out. Send it to go out. So that's a lot of features that we've talked about here of ways. I'm trying to take practical ways to take data, and that if the information that you're entering into Empower or PowerChurch, and taking that information to meet people's, to meet people where they are, to help them feel part of your group, part of your church, to follow up, to have that information of what can we use for it to get, when we're planning volunteer levels for next year, of what, those totals, automating things by sending out those messages and keeping everybody connected. Did I miss anything, Justin?
No, I think that was awesome. I appreciate that. I think a couple of things that stood out to me there was that I love that last part about the automating things, because I know, again, there's always so many things to do, and anything that you can take off of your the weight on your mind to automate and make sure those happen, that's great. And then I loved when we were talking about attendance and doing it, like detailed attendance is awesome. I know some denominations, it's a requirement to turn those in, and that's based on attendance. And sometimes it's just a way for us to keep count. But if you can't do that, if that's not something that you're able to do on a consistent basis, just taking totals is so powerful of a tool to be able to use as you're making decisions, and also just celebrating what God's done in and through the church. I think that's it's easy to analyze all these numbers and see, but I think what really matters is these numbers are connected to people and things that are happening, and that's why we all do this. But yeah, I think we can jump into it. We got a little bit of time for some Q&A. I haven't seen any questions come in yet, but hopefully this kind of made you think of a few things. And if it's not, we'll try. If it's not totally related to what we talked about today, but just a question about the software, that's also fine too. We'll try to answer what we can, and if Luckily, the person to do that would be Mr. Jeff Campbell. So, but if y'all have any questions, just let's go. I say we just saw one that's what's the best practice to track attendance besides counting people and having them sign in?
That's the doing detail attendance, especially in like the main worship service, right? That's really the harder part of all of that, right? It depends on the size of your church, what you're able to do. I do know some places have somebody discreetly in the back that just have the attendance register form and check things off, right? Um, there is that option of check who they're there. I know another church that has their elders or their deacons assign particular families, and their thing is just kind of check to see they turn in a thing were they there this Sunday or not. Recording the detail attendance is always the hardest part of things. Like we're talking about with check-in, that sort of flows in automatically, but there again, that's the most people are going to do that for kids check-in. Some places have tried to talk about doing that with just overall worship, check-in. Be honest, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to do. Um, you know, I know my church, they just have somebody who counts every week. I know
Yeah.
one of the bigger churches in the area, they kind of take a picture and then kind of come back later and count.
Yeah. Yeah, I know if you have an area, like sometimes if there's, it's typically a larger church. If you have the picture, you can count the empty chairs and things like that. But some of
Yeah.
the best practices that I've seen over the years too, to add on to that, is just it's yeah, either like section leaders are great. I know so you divide up into where it's like, yeah, this elder or deacon is responsible for this section, and we know that we kind of know because we're creatures of habit. I bet if you
Mhm.
look there, like I know I'm probably going to go to the same seat every Sunday that we go, and that's so you kind of know, and you kind of build a community with the people in front of you and behind, so you can keep track there. But a couple other tricks and tips might be do it. We talked about consistency, so doing it at a consistent
Mhm.
time during the service. So a lot of times you'll see the ushers or whoever's in charge of counting, they'll do it at the beginning of the sermon, because by that point everyone who's there is there, and you're not counting near the end of the sermon or during that response song when people are already filtering out, and you're getting the majority
Mhm.
of people who are there. Because I know between the first and second song and greeting, people are still going to be like, I have 3 kids. We're probably going to be filtering in pretty late, even at our best shot there. So yeah, just finding that consistent time and
Oh,
yeah, and if
that's an important point about consistency. So I hate policies really, but you should set policies. Does your attendance count include the worship team or not include the worship team? Right. And what you're really looking for is trends. So you just needs to be consistent week to week, right? I mean, that's, um, or do you count the worship team just in the first service, right? Or that,
yeah, the choir counting twice would look great for attendance numbers, but does it really hit the
yeah.
reality of what we want to do? Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, so just kind of set that as a policy as to, like, hey, we know, so everybody agrees on what's going in the numbers. Um, I'm looking to the side because that's where my monitor is with the questions in the chat in it. There's a question about um, check-in programs that integrate with PowerChurch and Empower. Both PowerChurch and Empower have their own check-in programs. So if you're on PowerChurch, if you're on PowerChurch online, it is an additional monthly fee. If you're on the PowerChurch desktop, you can purchase the PowerChurch, the check-in that integrates PowerChurch desktop. And with Empower, has a check-in system built into it. So it's web-based, web-based check-in system. So Empower has a check-in system that's built into it that comes with the monthly fee for Empower. So we do have check-in systems for both PowerChurch and Empower. They have pretty comparable feature sets in them. Both will have um, a what we call a kiosk mode, where parents can check them, or people can check themselves into an activity, and then a manned mode where you have somebody who's trained in manning that station that's recording people into different groups, and they can add a new family, fix somebody if they're not in an activity or a group that they're supposed to be part of. Like, I'm trying to check my kid into the 5th grade and it's giving him the 3rd grade class, right? That fix those kinds of things in the man station
Yeah,
as
and I
well.
love that you can use that for. I know it's easy to when I think church check-in, I instantly think like kids ministry, that like children's ministry every Sunday just for the security side. But it's also great if you if you're running Sunday school or life groups, things like that, that we want to be able to keep track of what they're doing.
If you have any other questions, feel free to go ahead and post them in there. So
Awesome. I like this one from Joetta, newbie here. We like newbies. Thanks for joining us and coming to hang out. So she asked, what is the difference between PowerChurch and Empower? Same company, different products? Yes. Would you like to go into that a little bit more, Jeff?
Yes. So same company, different products. Empower is really, there are customers have been asking us for a complete web-based version. So you might be using PowerChurch Online. PowerChurch Online is the same PowerChurch program running on our servers. You install a small client that connects you to our servers, but then you're running PowerChurch, and it runs that way. Some people have been asking us for a complete web-based version, and Empower is our complete web-based version. There's a lot of overlap of features between the two. But Empower will work with anything with a web that has a web browser in it. So that includes desktops, includes tablets, includes phones, really anything with a web browser. Being that it is more of a web application and always running, it lets us do a few different things, like you can schedule an email to go out at a particular time, and Empower will send that out. It will send that out at that time. There's some different stuff around communication, especially like that just works differently. We made some tweaks to things as we were writing Empower, but it largely has a lot of the same feature set. Empower right now does membership and contributions tracking, including check-in. With that, it uses PowerChurch Online accounting. So it interface, when we making a deposit in Empower, so you make a deposit in Empower, and it can update PowerChurch Online accounting if you're using the accounting area, kind of like the posting process does inside of PowerChurch itself. There was a question here about.
Yeah, I can read that out from Sarah in the Q&A. I think this. So I think there are more than one type of taking attendance. There's the head count for one purpose. That's the totals we talked about. And then taking notice of who isn't there for pastoral care. Yeah, that's for pastoral care purpose, which isn't a number per se, but it's important. Perhaps there's a system that elders can keep attendance or lack thereof in the attendance or check-in function.
You're still talking about detail attendance there, right? I mean, maybe that's the thing. If you want to track, like we noticed who wasn't there, I mean, you could just mark everybody else as present and then mark those people as absent. I mean, that's kind of what you're saying, and then you would kind of track that. There again, it depends on the size of your organization. I mean, there's some Sundays we're busy and we sneak in and we sneak out. I mean, that's we've got teenagers, so we have oftentimes activities that are happening. So, that's like detail attendance, detail tracking, detail attendance, especially in a corporate worship activity is not easy, right? I mean, there's a lot to that, but there are some denominations that do kind of require it. So,
I've passed a few pew pads around in my day. That's
yeah. Okay, there's a question here. How long is attendance history kept in PowerChurch? In PowerChurch until you say to delete it. So we have got customers with 30 years of data. They probably have 30 years of attendance history. So to delete attendance, there again, I'll give you the tech support answer. The first thing, and before you delete attendance, is always make a backup, right? Because you never know when you need that information again. But to delete attendance, you come under setup, and then there's a delete all data option. For attendance, you can specify what range of activities you want to delete, and then, oh, thank you, Justin.
Sorry.
I forget to bring that back online. All right, so let me just show you how I got here. Membership, attendance, it's under setup because we hide it on purpose. Delete all data, what range of activity numbers you want to delete, and then what date range. Now you can do this. There's an option here that says save present counts. Remember we showed you just taking the total. So you might say we don't need detail attendance that's over 3 years old, but we want to keep the totals. So if you check this option, it'll keep that attendance, but it gets rid of all the detail, which we've seen attendance data that's had over 1 million rows of data, like over 1 million data points coming in. So that saves all that detail attendance and just really gives you one data point per week. Well, per week per activity. Sorry, that's the data nerd in me coming out of there. So you can save it that way. Empower is slightly different in how it works. Empower under options, we have a thing. We have a data retention policy, is what we call this, and you can turn this off. In fact, right now, this is set off. No data will be automatically deleted. But under attendance, you can edit this. If I say enable this, and it says how many years of, by default, it says retained 5 years of detailed attendance, and then it converts detailed attendance into totals upon deletion, and then it enables inner total attendance retention policy delete after 5 years. So this should probably really be something like 10 years, I think, and that'll then, we'll have total attendance for 10 years, detail attendance for 5 years. Is kind of how that would work in both systems. So both systems have a way to delete the attendance built into them. So that's a very, very good question. And you can keep the attendance as long as you want, as long as it's useful to you. Like I said, we've got customers that have lots and lots of attendance data. That's one of the areas I can quickly build up data.
Yeah, thank you all for asking questions. It's always a little bit more fun when we get to interact and answer things y'all have. So keep them coming if you have anything else. We've got a question from Peggy on how to register for PowerChurch training.
The best way for PowerChurch training. So there's 2 different types of training. If you go to training, we do have a series of online training videos, and they go pretty deep into each individual module, okay? So like what we've covered here, there's a whole on activities and attendance. There's over 30 videos and an hour of content in this training video. If you don't have access already, you should have access to an Intro to PowerChurch video. Most people get that when they purchased PowerChurch or purchase PowerChurch for that. But so that's the training videos. If you're really looking for somebody to come out and do training, we do work with a series of third-party trainers. They're independent. They're not our employees. And if you go to training, independent training, these are the companies that do that. You would have to contact them to see what their services are and what their fees are for doing that. But that's more geared for, basically, I want a consultant to come in and help us set that up. All right. So there's a question about, can you enter attendance totals for an event a year ago? Yes. So yeah, the same way. Let's just do that in PowerChurch here.
I imagine, for instance, like, hey, we didn't do it historically, but we know the numbers for Easter last year.
Yeah. So yes, what you can do. So I'm going to pick my totals only one. I can put any date I want to in here. So if I'm going to go back to 2020, it's going to give me a warning, right, to make sure I type the date right. It's going to make sure it's not within the last 12 months. Do you want to continue? Yes. Confirm. Yes. And I can put in my totals there. And Power should basically do the same thing. It'll let you go back and fill that in. Fill that in there. There. So yes, you can go back and fill that in. The training videos for PowerChurch do cost. Yes, there is a fee. The overall, there is if you register for account, you may already have the Intro to PowerChurch training video, and that's going to cover the whole program. Not super in depth, but it's going to cover all of the. And it'll talk about attendance. It'll talk about activities in there as well. So with the in-depth versions that go deep into an individual area, there is a charge for those PowerChurch training videos. Yes.
Yeah, which even looking at the time for that the intro to Power Church, which as I was onboarding, I can tell you it was all of 2 hours and 58 minutes and 23 seconds just for that, just for the overview of the accounts, not
Yeah.
looking at even the detailed.
Yeah, they are not there. We go pretty deep into detail on those. Um, Somebody was asking about um, there are not training videos currently for Empower. We do have an overview video. Empower is still changing quite frequently, so we don't have training videos for those. Um, I'll let you handle the transcript, or we'll be, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, but that'll be well. Um, there's not a we don't send the transcript, I don't believe, but there's an video link for this recording that goes out. But if you can if you would like specifically want a transcript of that, you can send me an email at the link that I put down there, and I'll make sure you get a copy. Well, awesome. We'll get
Um,
just a. Oh, let me see it. Did anything else?
um,
Oh, just a couple comments on series. Let's see. We'll get just another second for any other questions, but if not, maybe the next 18 minutes can be that time of the season where you take a minute and let it breathe for a minute.
um, okay. I don't see any other questions there.
Yeah.
So we do hope you have a relaxed Easter. We in Easter season. So I know this is all mainly starting up this weekend.
Yeah.
And,
Awesome. Well, again, well, thank you. Yeah, thank you for letting us serve you as you serve your communities, and again, and thank you. And let us know if you have any questions after this. We'll be back next month with some topics. I think we're gonna get a couple deep dives into accounting over the next couple months, so that'll be nice. But awesome. Well, cool. Thank you all so much again, and
thank you.
have a great Easter.